Welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Nwokam. On the news this hour, Nigeria records first coronavirus death as active cases rise, with assurances from government on fighting the war by stopping the spread. We analyze the move by the federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria on the response to the impact of COVID-19. And the main opposition party raises alarm over the disbursement of funds for the war against coronavirus, seeking transparency in the utilization of the money. Welcome everyone to the program. It's a sad one this afternoon with news that Nigeria has recorded its first COVID-19 fatality in the nation's capital, Abuja. Channels Television gathered that the victim was a former managing director of the pipeline and product marketing company, PPMC, engineer Sulaiman Achimogo. A statement sent by his family to Channels Television says he died of COVID-19 on Sunday, and that's a few days after he arrived in Nigeria from the United Kingdom. A statement sent by his family to Channels Television, or rather signed by Abubakar Achimogo, says he was in self-isolation upon his return from the UK and personally called the NCDC after experiencing some discomfort that are related to the COVID-19 symptoms. He later tested positive and was promptly evacuated to the specialist hospital, where he later died while receiving treatment. The NCDC says he was 67 and had underlying medical conditions, multiple myeloma and diabetes, and was also undergoing chemotherapy. Our thoughts are with his family at this time. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 5 new COVID-19 cases in the country. 2 of the cases are in the nation's capital, Abuja, 2 in Lagos State, and 1 in Edo State. The NCDC says 2 of the cases are returning travelers from the United Kingdom. With the 5 new cases, the number of confirmed cases in Nigeria now stands at 36, of which 33 of them are active, while 2 have already been discharged and 1 confirmed dead. A further outbreak shows that breakdown shows that Lagos State now has 24 cases. The Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, 6, Ogun State, 2, Ekiti and Oyo States have 1 cases each. The son of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2019 general elections, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, has tested positive for coronavirus. The former vice president announced this by his verified Twitter handle while calling for prayers for his son's recovery. It is not confirmed if this case is part of the 30 confirmed cases in the country announced by the federal government. In the tweet, Mr. Abubakar says, "The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has been duly informed, and he has been moved to Gwagwalada Specialist Teaching Hospital in Abuja for treatment and management. I will appreciate it if you have him in your prayers. Stay safe. Coronavirus is real." In an earlier tweet, the former number 2 citizen said he was joining millions of Nigerians to celebrate the country's health workers for their courage and dedication in the fight against COVID-19, while urging everyone to remain strong as the nation combats the coronavirus pandemic. Well, let's talk about some of the developments and the efforts by authorities to stem the tide of the virus. I'm now being joined by the Chairman House Committee on Health Services, Honorable Tanko Sununu. Thank you so much for joining us at this time. Now, looking at what we've seen today in the last couple of hours, there are fears that COVID-19 cases are likely to rise in the next 12 to 24 hours. On issues of enforcement to really stemming the tide, to curbing the spread, is there any form of legislation to back up these enforcement? Because despite what some state governments have done in trying to stem the spread, some people still don't believe that COVID-19 is real.
And I thank you very much once more for inviting me to your studio. Well, let me first of all call on each and every Nigerian to accept reality that COVID-19 is real. COVID-19 started somewhere else. It gradually spread, and right now, the country is battling with COVID-19. There is no other time that one can win than to accept that it's reality. That will give you the ability and the chance to utilize effectively all the guidelines and instruction that will be emanating from Federal Ministry of Health. And that, taking it lightly, is what is causing people not to accept that instruction given is given not to punish anybody, but to safeguard the health of the nation. And I want to call on every Nigerians to accept it as a reality and to work hand in hand to ensure that instructions are adhered to. The mode of transmission of the virus is known. And then the fact that if you give certain social distances of 1.5 to 2 meters, there is evidence and proof that it can reduce the transmission. That's why the advocation that everybody must be at a distance. And you cannot come together in a crowd trying to pursue one thing or the other and still maintain that social distancing.
Honourable, tell us what more the House Committee is doing in terms of legislation.
Sir? Ma?
Tell us what more the House Committee
in terms of legislation, you recall, I mentioned here that we have moved a motion of urgent public importance. We identified the problem right from when COVID-19 was outside the country. We realized that we have few isolation centers. We realized that there is also need to build capacity, and we realized that there is also need to ensure public awareness, and we realized that there is need for adequate funding. And we raised a motion of urgent public importance calling on the federal government to increase on the number of isolation centers and also to develop a well-equipped isolation, treatment, and diagnostic centers in the 6 geopolitical regions of the country. And we also call for an improved funding. This funding should go direct without much bureaucracy in terms of procurement of the consumables that are needed to fight the disease. We also realize that even hospitals are not really well equipped to face the challenges of the COVID-19. So we call on the government to make funds available so that personal protective equipment, supportive drugs, because the treatment is going to be supportive, will be made available to hospitals so that they can easily be utilized to take care of patients that may come down with disease. And the House has not only stopped at that. We try to see where we think that there are areas of concern that may lead to instability in healthcare services delivery in the country. We try to prompt in and come in. If you recall, Mr. Speaker has several meetings through my committee with various healthcare associations and unions to tell them that we are in a situation where we are dealing with pandemicity of coronavirus. Therefore, all issues that are unaddressed before, he is personally going to oversee that they are resolved so that they can go back to services and then healthcare will be ensured and average Nigerian can be treated.
So, Honourable Sununu, isn't this a race against time, seeing as we're having a lot more positive cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria? And I'd also like to get your opinion on the practice of self-isolation as one of the efforts of curtailing the spread. Are you confident that that is what is needed at this time? And if the numbers coming in are really adhering to that to curb the spread of COVID-19?
Well, one may not say it's really 100% comfortable with the self-isolation in Nigeria. Why? Because our multicultural and cultural diversity and religious diversities. In some communities, when you try to isolate yourself alone in a house, people may not respect, may not reason with you. Before you realize, people will be given different names. But what is there is, we must emphasize that we try to carry people along through proper health education and creating awareness that these are. And then the major challenges is the inadequacy of our isolation centers nationwide has also led to demand that people must isolate themselves. But then when you are isolating, there must also be an adequate backup of education. That what are you expected during that self-isolation? You are expected to remain isolated. You are expected to monitor your physical and then physical status, health-wise. Monitor, are you coughing? If you are not coughing when you started isolation, at the time you develop cough or your temperature start rising, you should have a contact where you can easily call and then tell them the situation so that officially you can be addressed to and you can be taken to a proper center where you can be diagnosed and treated. But I think what is much needed now, thank God that the federal government has already banned the international flight. Otherwise, anybody coming into this country must be subjected to mandatory quarantine until this thing. And now, with the fact that there is self-isolation, what is most needed now is contact tracing. And I emphasized previously here that the problem with contact tracing in Nigeria is that people don't have correctly identifiable address, and even at times the contact number they are going to use. Some may use their cousins or fathers' contact number rather than using their own. And at times, people, because they are scared that when you are socially isolated, you may have some negative consequences. People may want to stigmatize you even after quarantine. They tend to decline or to refuse to observe such needed isolation. And I think this is time to call on generality of people that, look, doing harm to the nation is not in the best interest of this country. Forget about social stigmatization. When you need to self-isolate yourself, please go ahead and do that. And when you develop the earliest symptoms, please seek for health care. We are
appreciate
assured,
your time.
and there is evidence that is...
As we keep talking about this issue...
There is evidence that is...
Your final words, just go ahead.
There is evidence that there is, with the earlier you get intervention, the better the outcome. So if you don't report early, you keep on this thing, by the time you move from mild condition to severe state, then the chances that you might have affected a lot or infected a lot of people, and the chances that you can be rescued easily is also not there.
We appreciate your input at this time. We'd like to thank you, Honourable Tanko Sununu. He's the Chairman, House Committee on Health Services. Thank you so much. Moving on to other stories. The main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, they're raising an alarm over the funds voted to combat the coronavirus spread in Nigeria. The party has called on the president to exhibit all sense of transparency in the management of the 1.1 trillion naira intervention fund to fight COVID-19. The party said that it will hold the federal government responsible for the devaluation of the naira due to its carelessness and ineptitude, as well as corrupt tendencies. The party said that it is worried over the allegation of corruption in handling of the 1.1 trillion naira set aside to cushion the effect of COVID-19 on the economy. The party held a press conference in Abuja, the nation's capital.
Our party, the People's Democratic Party, is concerned that the APC's recklessness and greed has wrecked our economy. We hold the APC responsible for the devaluation of the naira, and we are demanding transparency on the 1.3 trillion COVID-19 intervention fund. The All Progressives Congress and the Buhari presidency have finally wrecked our nation's economy, and there's little or no hope in sight under their control. The APC and Buhari presidency has turned us into a beggar nation, as well as the world capital of poverty, with their inherent recklessness and lack of capacity to articulate strategies that will sustain and grow our hitherto robust economy, which they took over from the PDP in 2015. Nigerians are all aware that before the PDP left office in 2015, our party had succeeded in growing our economy with policies and programs that boosted private sector participation to the extent that Nigeria was ranked the third fastest growing economy after China and Qatar with capacity to lend to other countries.
Well, still to come on Lunchtime Politics, we have more on COVID-19. We'll be looking at the economic impact, talking to an economist, Taiwo Oyedele, much later. Also, former head of service, Mrs. Oyoita, arraigned in court today. We have details after the break.